Thank you for joining me today for installer package scripting. This is where I hopefully will be able to help you make your deployments easier, one shebang at a time. For those who are not expecting a session of this title, this is your opportunity to leave now and attend one of the other fine sessions occurring at this time. But for those who plan to be here, thank you for joining me, and hopefully I'll be able to share some good information. So, before we get started, there's two things I'd like to mention. The first is that all the slides, speakers, notes, and demos are available for download, and I'll be providing a link at the end of the talk. I tend to be one of those folks who can't keep up with the speaker and take notes at the same time. So for those folks in the same situation, there's no need to take notes. Everything I'm going to be covering is going to be available for download. So to set some expectations management for this session, my assumption is that folks here already know the basics of how to write scripts and know the basics of how to build an installer package. We're going to be discussing how to build on that foundation to solve problems. Now, installer packages are pretty great. They're one of Apple's 2 recommended ways to install software, with the other method being dragging and dropping a self-contained application into place. Now, I personally believe that installer packages are the superior method. You can control the permissions on the installed files, you can control where those files are placed, and when properly built, a package can be installed with nobody logged in. And last but not least, you can run scripts as part of the installation process. And another advantage outside of the package itself is that every Mac management system I've run into yet has the ability to install an installer package. So for folks who have to support multiple management systems, this common ability means that you can build one package and be confident it will deploy the same regardless of the management system you're using to install it. However, the real magic of using installer packages happens when you start using scripts as part of the installation process. What languages can you use? Well, in general, if a client Mac supports a language, the installer tool should be able to support running scripts written in that language on that client. But probably the most common form I've seen is going to be shell scripting using the bash shell, though. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on during this talk. From there, your scripting options are going to depend on whether you're using a bundle-style package or a flat package. Now, bundle-style installer packages are created as a Mac OS X bundle that contains scripts and a description of the package requirements and behavior. Now, as part of creating a bundle-style package, you can define scripts that can be executed before or after the installation. And normally, there are 6 types of scripts that can be used in a bundle-style package. However, most of the time, you'll be using these 2 types, pre-flight and post-flight. Pre-flight scripts get run before files are installed, and post-flight scripts run after files are installed. The other types of scripts will only apply in specifically defined circumstances, which may or may not apply to your package. Now, when Apple created the flat package format, they simplified the script options, and they made only 2 script options available. The bundle-style post and pre-install and pre- and post-update script options were removed. Apple retained the concept of both pre- and post-flight scripts, but they renamed those script categories to pre-install and post-install to make their functions more clear, that these are running before an installation and after an installation. Now, a commonality between scripts used in bundle-style and flat packages are that the scripts must return an exit status of 0, or else installer will report a failure. Now, if you're building a shell script for an installer package, one way, there are others, to ensure that the script returns a status of 0 is by adding exit 0 to the end of your script. There's probably other better ways, but that's one guaranteed way to make that work. So when building a script for use with an installer package, it's helpful to know that the installer application can automatically pass along information to the script using variables, and the ones shown on the screen are for shell scripts. So here's an example of using the $3 variable in an installer script. So in this case, we're able to take advantage of the installer telling us which drive the package is being installed on to have our script run actions on that targeted drive. So for example, if you are installing a package while booted from, say, the recovery environment to what's going to be your boot volume, you can take advantage of that the installer passing along the target to make sure that your script is only running on that targeted volume as opposed to trying to run in recovery. So one thing that is important to know is that the closest set of variables to the script is going to win. So if your systems management tool assigns $3 to one thing, and it's different than what installer does, the installer assign meeting is what's going to win. So in this case, for example, Jamf, I believe, assigns $3 to a user, where installer assigns it to the targeted volume. Targeted volume is what $3 is going to mean for your script inside the installer package. So, big deal, right? I can use scripts as part of installer packages. So why are we having a session about this? Well, there are lots of cool ways to use scripts. You can use them to fix problems in other people's installer scripts. You can install software which doesn't use any of Apple's recommended methods. You can deploy configuration files for other installers. And you can even build an installer package which is only a delivery mechanism for scripts. So for your packaging needs, there are a number of free tools available. Now, I personally use, I'm going to butcher his name, and I'm real sorry, Stefane Sudra's Iceberg and Packages for when I need to manually create a package. But try them all out and use the one that works best for you. Iceberg will build bundle-style packages, and Packages will build flat packages. So if you need to use source control for your packaging, I would recommend using either Monkey Package or the Luggage. Both are free open source tools that allow packages to be built in a consistent and repeatable way using source files and scripts. For those who really want to go old school, the Luggage is a tool created originally by Joel Block. He had written a tool when he worked at Google that used makefiles to generate installers. This allowed the other members of his team to easily review installer package changes before they were put into production. And when Joe left Google, he wanted to have a similar tool for that available, so he wrote an open source Luggage. So for those folks who are like, I love makefiles, the Luggage is for you. Jamf's Composer is also an available tool for creating packages, and it includes a handy feature for taking before and after snapshots of your file system, where you make the initial snapshot, install your software, and then take a second snapshot after the installation is finished. Composer will then take those snapshots and use them to generate a list of files and directories that changed, and then optionally use those changes to generate a package. Now, the main reason it's not up in this slide is that it is not free. It is available for purchase from Jamf, and it is also included as part of Jamf's Jamf Pro suite. Now, to further automate your packaging, there is another open source tool called AutoPkg. AutoPkg is hugely useful because it's designed to automate the tasks that one would normally be performing manually to prepare third-party software for deployment. Now, for those not familiar with AutoPkg, there was a great introductory talk by Anthony Reimer from the University of Calgary last summer at the Penn State Macmillan's conference. And because our wonderful host posts all of our talks to YouTube, this talk is also posted to YouTube, and the link is available at the bottom of the screen. Now, while this talk is going to focus on manually building packages to solve specific problems using installer scripts, I really want to mention AutoPkg because it often allows you to solve the same problems in a consistent and repeatable fashion, with the added bonus of it's also automating the download of the applications that you want to package. So in many cases, I will solve a packaging problem first by manually building and testing a package. Then I will write a recipe file for AutoPkg to automate the building of that same package. Now, for those not familiar with AutoPkg and how it works, a recipe is an XML file that describes a series of tasks for AutoPkg to run. These tasks can include downloading some software, building an installer package for that software, and then importing the newly created installer package into your Mac software management tool. So it really handles the full life cycle for getting new software into your systems management tool. To help illustrate this, I'll be discussing some examples later of how I first solved a problem with manual packaging and then later turned it into an AutoPkg recipe. That is a tragedy. Can we get that back, please? Does anyone need some candy or want some candy?
Free shipping.
Free shipping, yes, indeed. It starts in the air and then it drops.
There you
All right. The punchline is that right now I'm the only one who can see my presentation because I have it on this other monitor over here. So if it persists much longer, perhaps, like we could form a line, just run people by the screen. Yeah, I'm sure that will be fine. We'll all get together. Or I could just turn. No, I need my notes. So, what to do?
Oh, they can still see it in 204, they said.
Oh, they can still see it?
Everybody into the overflow room.
Yeah, that might be the solution. I give it to an empty room. That's wonderful for my confidence, Is it just that the projector went out, or what's the deal? Oh, I see. Power only went out to half the room. We're half powered, folks. Well, while we're waiting to get this technical glitch fixed, does anyone have any questions about what we've covered so far in the presentation? Seriously, opening the floor for questions until the projector gets back. Okay, so I see Mr. Elliott in the back, and my aim is terrible, so I'm going to toss this to someone who hopefully has a better arm.
Rich, they did say it's real quiet.
It's real quiet?
All right.
Are they hanging on my every word?
They are.
Thank you, Rich. I'm a little embarrassed to admit I've never heard of Iceberg before today. Can you talk a little bit about what Iceberg is relative to packages? Or some of
Okay.
those others?
So yeah, Iceberg is actually it was the original packaging tool that was written by Monsieur Sudra. And this was, what was Apple's tool? It was like the original, it was Package Maker?
Package Maker.
Package Maker. It was a contemporary Package Maker where I took a look at Package Maker and I was like, I cannot figure this thing out, man. And then I ran across Iceberg and it made it more comprehensible because you could see in the interface, I'd show you if this was working. It helped describe very easily how you could, you could add files into the Iceberg interface, set the permissions on them, also set like the pre-flight and the post-flight scripts, and really walked you through the process of building installer packages. And packages, the later tool built on that foundation. So if you look at Iceberg and then you later look at packages, you'll go, okay, I can see it. Both built by the same person, but taking the knowledge of what he had learned while making Iceberg and he applied it to packages. And I would say that the big thing I would use packages for today is that Iceberg can make those bundle style packages, which are handy because you can, unlike a flat package, which is all just one file, it is a bundle of files and you can directly access things like the pre-flight and post-flight scripts if you need to, say, add a configuration file to the installer. And it makes it easier for some folks to be able to just, like a vendor who wants to say, okay, just add this configuration file to my installer and then it'll run. The caveat to that is you cannot sign a bundle-style installer package. That really wasn't something that was around at that point. So I would say it's a bundle style package because of that lack of signing may be a less safe option these days. But if you do need to do that or you want to build a meta package, which is also a special type of bundle package, Iceberg will help you do that. So great tool. It was one of those things that I kept expecting to stop working, but then in response to feedback, Monsieur Sudra actually revved it to work on Sierra. Because there were people, sending him feedback going, I'm still using this. I still like this to work. He's like, all right, I'll make this work. So as far as I'm aware, Iceberg still works today on Mojave. So great tool. Any more questions?
You might cover this later on in your talk. I was just curious, if you're doing a script-only package and say deploying that over a monkey or something like that, I'm just not aware of how, does it register something so that it doesn't just keep running that script because it's not leaving any files or anything?
Happily, I am covering that later in the talk, so I will be going into detail on that.
Is there a recommended source that you would recommend on the 101 class of how to write an AutoPkg recipe?
Actually, for the 101 class, I would recommend taking a look at Recipe Robot, which is built by my colleague in the back there, because it'll help you. It is designed to basically write a recipe for you, and you can take a look at how things are, set up in that recipe, and really take a look at how, when you feed in an application, how it makes those recipes for you. And that is one way I would recommend taking a look. Also, there is a new function in AutoPkg as of the latest version that will generate a skeleton AutoPkg recipe for you. And I have a blog post, which I'll post to the channel, on how to make that work. Because that takes some of the work out of, getting the right format set up. Are we back? We're back! All right, I am going to, someone remind me about that link at the end. Okay, so to sum up, the Cylons are robots and they have a plan. Okay, so yes, so I'm gonna be discussing some examples of how I first solved the problem with manual packaging and then later turned that into an AutoPkg recipe. So to give some practical examples, let's first take a look at how a vendor's installer package didn't quite cover all the potential deployment scenarios and how you can use your own package to fix that, your own script to fix that. So for this scenario, we're going to be working with the Citrix Workspace installer. So the Workspace installer provided by Citrix runs both a pre-install and post-install script. And as part of the post-install script, one of the script variables references home. Now, home is a variable that is set at login to be the path name for the user's home directory. Cisco's working assumption was that nobody was ever going to be logged out when you installed Citrix Workspace. There was always going to be somebody logged in. It's not the greatest assumption. Because in those cases, an error is going to be generated and the script is going to return an exit status other than 0. And one thing to remember is that installation scripts must return an exit status of 0 or they're going to report that they failed. So how do we fix this? By avoiding the error condition. And we can do this by writing a script that does 3 tasks. The first is that verifying the Citrix built installer is available at a location defined by the script. If the installer is present, we make sure that home always returns a valid result by resetting home to be a value that's controlled by the script. And third, we run that Citrix built installer while using that updated home value. So the first step is verifying that the installer is available at the script's defined location. Next is trying to make sure that we match the Citrix installer's assumption as much as possible. We do that by first figuring out if there is a logged in user. After that, we try to figure out the location of the logged in user's home folder. And next step is setting the home value to match the path of the logged in user's home folder. So this matches the default behavior of the home variable, so it's also matching the assumptions that Citrix made when they built our installer in the first place. And here's where we set home to always return a value, even in those conditions where the Citrix built installer would otherwise error. So if a logged in user can't be determined, home is set to use the var root directory, which is the home directory of the root user on Mac OS. And if you're not logged in, the effective logged in user is root. Last step, the script runs the Citrix built installer. Now that the script is setting the home value to be valid in all conditions, the Citrix built installer should not error. So let's put all this together in a package. So to do this, I'll be using the script I just described as a post-install script, a copy of the latest Citrix Workspace installer, and the Packages app to create the package. So first step, we open up the Packages app, and we set up a raw package project. Next, we name it, and we define where that package's project file is going to be stored. So in this case, I'm naming the package as Citrix Workspace, and I'm storing the project files in the Citrix Workspace directory in your My Home folder. So in the project pane, the main thing I'm really checking here is to make sure I got the name right. As long as that's correct, there's really no need to change anything here from the defaults. In the settings pane, we want to require the admin password for installation, and on successful installation, we don't want to do anything else. There's no need to restart for this or anything like that. In the payload pane, we're not actually installing any files. That's going to be the job of the Citrix built installer, so we're not changing anything here from the defaults. And in the scripts pane, we need to add the Citrix built installer under additional resources and add the post install script to the post installation section. So the reason why we add the Citrix installer to the additional resources section is because packages will store those resources in the same location that it stores the pre and post install scripts. So this allows our script to be able to access the Citrix built Workspaces installer. And one of the nice things about packages, it actually does include a note that does say that anything you put in here is going to be in the same directory, and that they can be used by the pre and post installation scripts. So let's take a look at how this works. So I've got my installer here. Just going to go ahead and grab that. Save my changes. Post installation. Let's go grab that script. Go to post install. Save that. Next thing we do, we go up to the build menu. We just tell it to build. All right, looks good. So once this package is built, you can test it by deploying it onto a Mac while the Mac is at the login screen with nobody logged in. It should install successfully where previously you would have received an error. Now, for those who want to automate this process using AutoPkg, I've written a Citrix Workspace recipe to create a package just like the one that we've been talking about. It's available on GitHub via the address shown on the screen, and it uses the same post-install script that I've described. So this is, again, a way that you can use AutoPkg to take a problem and automate it out of the way. Because we can download the Citrix installer, we can build our script, and we can then wrap up the Citrix installer inside our own package and be ready to go. Now, there are also vendors who prefer to use installers that don't use any of Apple's supported methods. These can be challenging, but you can still package these if you can run the provided installer from the command line. So for this scenario, we'll be working with the Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop App Installer. So Adobe goes their own way most of the time when it comes to installers. Yeah. And the Creative Cloud Desktop App for macOS is a good example. It uses an Adobe developed installer and in no way, absolutely whatsoever, leverages either of Apple's supported methods. Now that said, they did include a way to run a silent installation from the command line. So let's take a look at how that works. So I've just downloaded the Creative Cloud installer app directly from Adobe. I'm running sudo volumes Creative Cloud install.app, contents, macOS install, and I'm telling it that I want to do a silent installation. Put in my password. Goes through, throws me some fun error messages that I don't quite understand, tells me it's done, and there, sure enough, there's Creative Cloud. Okay, so how do we put this into a package? Well, with the information, we can write a script that does two things. It identifies the directory that the script is running from, and we need to make sure that the Adobe installer is placed in that same directory, and then running the Adobe installer using the silent install mode. So first step is identifying the script's location. And second is running the installer using that location information to provide a path to the installer. Now that we have that, we can put all this together into a package. So to do this, I'll be using the script I just described as a post-install script, a copy of the latest Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop Installer, which also handily comes with support directories, because why put it all in one thing? and the packages app to create the installer package. So first step, we open up the packages app. We set up a raw package project. Next, we name it, and we define where that packages project is going to be stored. And in this case, I'm naming the package as Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop Installer, and I'll be storing the project files in an Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop Installer directory on my home folder. So project pane, like with the workspace installer, main thing I'm checking here is just making sure I got the name right. As long as that's correct, we don't need to change anything. As before, in the settings pane, we want to make sure that we require the admin password for installation, and on successful installation, we don't want to do anything else. In the payload pane, we're not changing anything from the defaults. And in the scripts pane, we need to add the Adobe installer and its support directories under additional resources, and then add the post-install script to the post-installation section. Now, as mentioned during the Citrix Workspace installer, placing things in additional resources means that they can be referenced by those pre- and post-installation scripts. So let's take a look at how this works. So I'm going to go ahead, grab everything associated with the Adobe installer. And it is important to do that because otherwise the installer will fail. And then let's go ahead and select our post-install script, save all of our changes. Now let's go ahead and build. All right, that looks good. No problem seen. Once the package is built, you can test it by deploying it onto a Mac that doesn't have the Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop app installed and verifying that the desktop app installs correctly. So we got our package built there. Let's go ahead and double click on that. Hit continue, hit install. It's a much nicer experience than trying to do this otherwise. Goes ahead and runs the packages scripts. We're all finished. That looks good. But let's check to make sure everything, in fact, did install correctly. So there's our Adobe Creative Cloud folder. Let's go ahead and launch that app. And there we go. It's not configured, but at this point, someone, say in a lab, would be able to sign in with their Creative Cloud credentials and be able to start downloading and installing their applications. And this is something that is, in my opinion, far easier to manage than Adobe's method. So for those who want to automate this process using AutoPkg, I've written an Adobe Creative Cloud Desktop app package recipe to create a package just like the one we've been talking about. So it is also available up on GitHub, and you can get it via the address shown on the screen, and it uses the exact same post-install script that I've been describing. Now, you can also use scripts to help deploy a custom software configuration. So in many cases, vendors will support placing a configuration file in the same directory as their installer. So an example of this is F5's VPN client. And when the F5 installer detects a file with a certain name in the same directory as the installer, it uses the contents of that file to install the VPN configuration along with the software. So the file in question is an XML document configured and named as shown on the screen. You normally shouldn't have to worry about creating this file. If you have an F5 VPN, you should just be able to contact the administrator and say, I just need the configuration file, and they should be able to get it for you. And it's always named config_temp.f5c. So a check for a file with the specified name is included as part of a post-install script included with the F5 VPN installer. So the script assumes that the installer and the configuration file are both located in the same directory. So if the configuration file is found, the installer copies it into library application support F5 networks so that the VPN software can pick it up and start using it. So once we have both that configuration file from our VPN administrator and the VPN installer, we can write a script that does 3 tasks. First, verifying that the configuration file is available at a location defined by our script. Second is verifying that the VPN installer is available at the same location. And third is running the VPN installer and verifying that it ran correctly. So now that we have all this, let's pull it together and make a package. So to do this, I'll be using the script that I've just been talking about, a copy of the latest F5 VPN installer, and the packages app to create this package. So again, We're going to set this up as a raw package project in packages. We're going to name and define it. And in this case, I'm going to be naming the package as F5 VPN installer and storing them in my home directory as a directory named F5 VPN installer. In the project pane, again, I just really need to make sure I got the name right. In the settings pane, again, we want to make sure to require the admin password for installation, not really change anything else. And in the payload pane, we're not changing anything from defaults because once again, we're basically wrapping up the installer inside another package. And in the scripts pane, we need to add the F5 installer and the configuration file under additional resources and add the post-install script to the post-installation section. So let's take a look at how this works. So I've got my F5 installer and the configuration file. Let's go ahead and select them both. Go ahead and add. Save my changes. Now let's go ahead and select that post-install script. All right, save changes. Let's go ahead and build. Everything looks good. All right. So once the package is built, you can test it by deploying it onto a Mac that does not have the VPN installed and verifying that the VPN, 1, installs correctly, and 2, that it's configured with your desired setup. So let's take a look at that. So we've got our F5 installer out on the desktop. Let's go ahead and run that. Install, provide our admin password when needed. All right, everything looks good. Let's double check and make sure that everything is working like it should. So as you can see, we have the F5 VPN installed, and I do have my 2 servers that I defined right here and over there, clearly very important offices in tightly geographically defined areas. Okay. So the final area I want to talk about with regards to making packages is one of my favorites. And this is where you can use an installer package as a delivery mechanism for just scripts. No files get installed in this case because the only thing in the installer package is just the script. So payload-free packages is Apple's term to describe installer packages that install no files and which have been built to only run scripts. Now, as with other installer packages, there are 2 types of payload-free installer packages. There are bundle style and there are flat. And Apple has built support into its command line package build tool, which is used to build flat installer packages. So the no payload option tells package build that the package being built only contains scripts. There are no files, there's no directories, there's no payload. There's only the scripts. So let's take a look at how this works by turning the following script into a payload-free package. So we'll start by saving the script inside a directory named scripts as an executable file named postinstall. Now note, this is not named postinstall.bash, this is not named postinstall.sh, this is just named postinstall. The name must be right, or installer won't be able to recognize it as a script. Now the reason for the scripts directory is that package build scripts options are set to look for a directory with scripts inside, rather than specifying the scripts themselves. Now once the scripts directory is set up and the postinstall script is saved inside of it, running the following command with root privileges will build a payload-free package and store it in the designated location. And once this package is built, you can hand it off to whatever or whoever needs it, and they'll be able to execute that script without knowing anything more than how to install the package. Now, for those of you familiar with package build, you may think I've left something out, the version number. Well, actually, I didn't leave it out. When you're building payload-free packages using the no payload option, the version number isn't required. Why is this? Well, when you build a payload-free package with Apple's package build tool using the no payload flag, no receipt is left behind. No receipt, no need for a version number. I filed a bug about this because this seemed wrong. When I did, Apple said that this was actually intended behavior for payload-free packages built using package build's no payload option. In Apple's opinion, payload-free packages are a convenient bag for scripts. They're just the delivery mechanism for your script. So any other type of package will leave a receipt behind, including a bundle-style payload-free package. So why is this important? Well, if your systems management tool relies on receipts to tell whether or not a payload-free package has been installed, a payload-free package that doesn't leave a receipt behind means your management tool won't be able to tell that it's been installed. So this may result in the payload-free package and its associated script being run repeatedly on your managed machine. However, you can make a package with pkgbuild that, while not technically payload-free, will act just like one. So the key is to create an empty directory and use pkgbuild's root option to look there for files. Pkgbuild's root option is used to tell pkgbuild which files to package. But since there's no files in an empty directory, the package will install no files on the destination Mac. However, you will get a receipt. So, I have built a tool called Payload-free Package Creator, which uses that behavior to build packages. So in this case, this allows an easy way to build a payload-free package where all you have to do is select the script, give it a name, give it a package identifier, which is usually a reverse DNS string. In this case, I'm just calling it com.company sysdiagnosegather, and giving it a version number. Put in the password, and it goes ahead and creates it for you. And there's my payload-free package, ready to go, with the script inside. And another tool that I've developed is a script used to build payload-free packages where the package sets up a printer with the desired configuration. Now, this script has a number of options, including an option to sign the payload-free package using an Apple developer certificate. Now, signing the package would enable the package to be posted somewhere for download and get past Gatekeeper because it's properly signed. Though I think at this point, now it also need to be notarized, but that is something that you'll have to do as a separate step. Now, while this tool has a lot of options, you may need only a few of them to set up a printer. So let's take a look at how this works using only these options. In this case, I'm setting the name of it as being reception desk brother laser printer. I'm setting the location, which is reception desk. I'm setting the display name, which is reception desk brother laser printer with spaces in between, so it looks normal. I'm setting the queue, which in this case is the URL for it, which is LPD, and then the number for it. Last but not least, I'm putting the path to that printer driver for that printer. So here's how the command to run the script should look. I have it broken up into separate lines for clarity. Normally, this would be all one line. So let's go ahead and run that. I'm going to cheat a bit because I just copied the whole line. All right, so let's go ahead and run it. Goes through, creates our package, and then creates our payload-free package to set up the printer over here. All right. Now, the build process did cover up the terminal window, but here's the output that you should see. You should see what information is associated with this payload-free package and all the options that you set for it. One thing that is included by default is that it turns off printer sharing, because that is a common issue I've found when setting up printers, is that for whatever reason it'll flip on printer sharing for that printer. This will tell it to set up that printer sharing off by default, and that is a built-in option. That is not something you can toggle on and off. But the script is available. If you really like that option, you can turn it off for yourself. So let's take a look at how a package built using this tool runs. All right, go ahead and put in our password. Successful. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at that printer. Go into printers and scanners. And there's our printer set up, ready to go. And now if you have a systems management tool, you can now deploy this printer configuration as long as the drivers are there first. That is important. The drivers need to be there first, or else this won't be able to set it up correctly. But as long as you get the drivers out there first, you'd be able to run this on as many machines as you want, and they'll all have that printer set up correctly with the options you want. Okay. So we've looked at scripts, but how are we doing this? You know, this is something that you want to be able to look at vendors' installer scripts. You want to make sure everything's kosher before you deploy it out to your various managed machines. How do you do this? Well, there's a few tools that can help you out. There's Apple's pkgutil command line tool. There's a tool called Pacifist, and there's a tool called Suspicious Package. Pkgutil and Suspicious Package are both free, while Pacifist is shareware with a free trial period. Now, since both Pkgutil and Suspicious Package are free with no strings attached, I'm going to take a look at them next. So pkgutil doesn't directly examine scripts for you, but what it does is it expands the contents of an installer package into a directory. And from there, you can examine those scripts yourself that are included with the package. So let's take a look at how that works. So I'm going to run pkgutil expand on an installer called privileges103.pkg. And I'm going to name the directory where it's going to expand the contents, and I'm just going to call that privileges. So goes ahead, expands it. Let's go ahead and open up that privileges directory. As you can see, we've got a few files in there, and one of the directories is named scripts. That's got our scripts in it, and we can go ahead, open up TextEdit, BBEdit, whatever our favorite text editor is, and take a look at that script and see how it works. So that's one way you can do it. Another way is Suspicious Package, and this is a phenomenally useful tool. For those who haven't run into this before, it is amazing for reasons that are going to be shown in a second. It will check an installer package for you. It'll show you its contents, and it'll even warn you if there are problems. So, got a couple of installers here. One is HP printer driver installer. Let's go ahead and open that with Suspicious Package. Okay, it's going through the process, it's checking it out. Okay, didn't find any problems. It runs 32 installer scripts. Holy schmoly. And the reason is because there's actually a number of packages that are installed inside that one installer script. It's actually a distribution style package. And every package you may want to check out and just make sure that there's nothing weird going on. You know, sometimes it might be hard to tell if there's something weird going on. Here we got one that's definitely going to have something weird going on. So, Suspicious Package is flagging us with a problem. What is that problem? One or more scripts in this package may be run when the macOS installer opens, even before you enter an administrator password. Well, that sounds bad. Oh Lord, it's half the package. Okay, this is the pre-install, and it does a lot. Wow, look at that. It just keeps going. It's a very, very long pre-install. That does a lot. I should probably see what that does in real life. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run that package in a VM. Okay. So, comes up with this thing that says we'll run a program to determine that the software can be installed. Okay, that seems cool. Hit continue. Where's my other continue button? Whoa, what just happened? What? So here's what that does, that lovely script. The Zoom installer will basically, that thing where it says I'm going to check things for you, what it does is that it checks to see if you're running in it as an administrator. And if you are, it just goes ahead and installs. Doesn't ask you for anything else. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. And then it forcibly kills the installer, and then it launches the Zoom app. That's horrifying. So, as it turns out, Zoom does have another installer, the Zoom Installer IT package. Let's see how this one works. Okay, got continue. Didn't get that thing about the check script. This seems like a much more normal process. It's asking me for my password. That's good. That's good. All right. Software is installed. cool. Why is this so different? Why isn't this the normal behavior? Well, let's check it out in suspicious package. So if we open this up in suspicious package, we let it run through it. We didn't find anything for review. In contrast to that previous installer, it's got 7 install scripts. Okay, let's take a look at that. Let's go take a look at that pre-install, which, was massively long, and it's really short now. Okay. How on earth did all this happen? Why does this behave so differently? Turns out we have the good folks at Tesla Motors to thank for that. Because if you look through the post-install for the Zoom installer IT package, there's lovely notes in here. I'm pretty sure these are JIRA ticket numbers. Zoom-34627. Requirement from Tesla for not opening the Zoom app. Zoom 34627. Requirement from Tesla for not opening the Zoom app. Zoom-74633. They commented out, don't kill the installer. It is a treasure trove, and I'm just like looking through it and going, why did you put this in the post-install script? This kind of confession mode seems more appropriate for your source control system. I mean, it's nice to have the information on my end, but it just seems unnecessary. So, but yeah, in general, if you can, use suspicious package to check out the packages you get from your vendors. Most of them will do very basic, boring things or things that make sense. But the reason you check them out is because of things like this. So I can't say enough good things about suspicious package. It also allows you to extract out things and so that you can examine them yourself. But it's just a phenomenally useful tool, and I really do recommend adding it to your tool belt. And with that, because you can never have too much information about new subjects to you and new frontiers to explore, here are some useful links. Some more useful links. Even more useful links. Yet more useful links. And possibly the most useful links you see in this entire presentation. This is how you get it all. So PDF with the presenter's notes is available from the top link, and keynote slides with the movies, the demos, the speaker's notes, the everything I've been talking about is available from the link below. And with that, I'm going to leave that up on the screen and open the floor for questions. My first question. My first question, is there anyone who has not had candy who would like some?
It won't be out, Doctor.
Yeah, we'll have to pass the bag back. Anyone? Raise a hands. Show of hands. I guess not at this time, but all right. So, you, sir.
I actually have 2 questions.
2. Okay.
So, in your post-install scripts, you've got the dir name 0 to get the directory.
Yes.
Is there a reason you don't just use the single dot because it's in the same location as the files that you're looking for?
Personal preference. That way, I'm absolutely determining where I am.
That's just making sure there wasn't something that I was doing.
Yeah, there's a variety of ways to figure out the directory you're in.
Right.
I like using dir name 0 because it'll return the name of the directory that you're in. There's different ways to handle it. Using the dot, it's a relative thing, which may or may not work. I like being sure.
Yeah. And I just forgot my other question.
Well, here's the joy. You can pass along the microphone, and it can come back to you later when you remember. Does anyone have any more questions? All right, question over there on the far side of the room. Time for a mighty toss, or at least a relay of sorts. Oh!
Very close.
So I hope you'll forgive me in asking for help in troubleshooting something,
Ooh.
package installer.
You know what? We got a whole room to draw on. And possibly another room for folks watching Slack. Who knows? So lay it on us. I might not have the answer.
So there's some software called Reason, which is a whole music recording synthesizer package. And when trying to import it into Monkey, either using Monkey import or Monkey admin, it fails. So I was creating my own package to take the whole Reason folder and put it in the applications folder.
Okay.
Using pkgutil, I think. It seems to create the perfect package. I inspect it with suspicious package, and I checked file sizes and everything else. The folder ultimately has 3 files in it, including the application itself. Run the installer, the application doesn't show up in the folder. It doesn't install the application. Once again, suspicious package says it's there. It says this is where it's going. The file size seems to be correct. I didn't see any obvious issues with permissions. It didn't seem to have shown up as a hidden file. I'm just wondering if any tricks or experience you have in trying to figure that out.
I mean, normally at that point I'd ask, are there any, first of all, why is Monkey not liking it? That would be the thing I would.
Yeah, and that's been consistent over multiple generations of this program. When it gets to the plist, it says null, null.plist, and it doesn't even import the installer.
All right. Have you ever, but like, I'm going to be the first to admit I'm not that familiar with Monkey import. Is there a verbose mode that you can run it into that'll give you more information on why it's not doing it? You know, I'd recommend taking a look at that because, I mean, Monkey is pretty good at figuring out problems.
Yes, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. So my next thing would probably be just wrapping it up inside another package with a script to run that installer and see if Monkey likes that, and then see if that actually deploys properly. Because especially if it has some strange installer script, it might be doing something that since you are only dropping the packages into place, that the script does some like post-installation cleanup and fixing that may not be being run now because it's been moved from the original installer. I've seen all kinds of strange things happen in that regard. So I think my favorite was that how many folks have to support LabVIEW? Okay. How many people hate that installer? I tore that thing apart one time and I discovered that it had tried to install 2 additional packages, but it references them using relative paths that are only true if you're like on the disk image and you happen to, you know, like you have like the LabVIEW disk image mounted and you're running the installer only from there. If you copy the installer somewhere else, it doesn't work anymore. Like it doesn't install those 2 additional packages because it's really looking for that. It uses relative paths, but the relative paths add up to only in that specific location, which is kind of against what relative paths should be able to do. So it could just be that the vendor has something in a script somewhere that fixes that issue. By just dropping those files into place, it doesn't get the chance to fix it. So the first thing I would try is, first of all, find out why Monkey hates it, because why Monkey hates it may point towards the solution. But my other go-to would be wrap it up inside of another package with just a simple post-install script for that package that says, find this package and then install this package. And hopefully that would address the issues that you're seeing.
Thank you.
What do you think?
An easy one.
You'll be next, Elliot. I saw your hand.
I use the luggage for all the packages that I build, and this may be true of all the tools that you showed up there earlier, but I do payload-free packages all the time, and they always have receipts without any extra work. That may just be something built into the way the luggage works.
So for the luggage, I think it's old enough that it may actually be building bundle-style payload-free packages. Unless is it using package build in the background now, or what's it doing?
I think it's still doing package build, and you can choose what type of package you want it to make as a flag.
Okay, so in that case, if you're not defining the no payload option, package build is going to go for its regular option, which is going to assume that there is a payload. So I think what the luggage is doing in that case is that it is just seeing that there's no files that you're trying to install. It's just going, okay, it's just empty. And then it's building that payload-free installer package that technically isn't a payload-free installer package. But because it, the luggage is like, there is a payload, even though it's an empty directory, that's why you're getting that receipt.
Always assuming the existence of a directory, even if there's nothing in it.
Yeah, if you have, like when you're building it, you define a payload directory, even if there's nothing in it, you will get a receipt out of it.
I wanted to make a quick unsolicited suggestion about the Reason installer. I, a long time ago, packaged up an app, I think it was a virtualization app of some sort, and the ch flag's hidden flag was set, and I didn't realize that until after I installed it. It turns out it was installed, it was just still hidden, so I had to go in and kind of unhide it, and that's just how it was on the VMG. Oh, okay, never mind. And my question for you, Rich, was in the Packages app, I noticed that there's absolute and relative paths, and I haven't really played around with that. Do you know when you would use one versus the other?
So here's where absolute versus relative is nice, because so absolute will give you an absolute path to something. So if you, for example, when you built your project, you were at users, username, F5 VPN installer, and you added a post-install script to that project, if you then copied that project file to another location, it would not find that post-install script anymore. Whereas if you define relative location, it's going to be relative within the project directory. So you can pick up that project directory, take it anywhere you want, reopen it, and as long as your files that you're referencing within the project directory are still in the same place that they were, packages will go, oh, okay, I found them. I don't have to go relocate them or, re-link them. So that's the difference between the two. Absolute is going to give you an absolute path, and relative is going to be location within that project directory. So even though I was showing absolute, it was pretty much because it was the default. Normally when I'm building my own, because I do like to back up and archive stuff, I will choose relative just because then I'm reasonably certain that when I come back to that project, even if I'm not at the original file system location I was, my project will still work. Say what? Elliot, do you have any news on AutoPkg being taken up by anybody?
What was the question?
AutoPkg coming back.
Oh. Officially, the Lindy Group still owns AutoPkg, and if there's anybody interested in contributing, I'm sure they would love to hear from you, but it's not under active development at this moment.
Yeah. For those not familiar with the saga, AutoPkg, which is not quite the same as AutoPkg, it's basically a GUI front end with additional functionality for running AutoPkg recipes, and it basically manages AutoPkg and its runs for you. Great tool, wonderful. How it was built for a hackathon, I believe, like 5 years ago now. Was it 5? It was. I want to say it was for a Facebook hackathon. It was pretty awesome. However, it is officially owned. It's an open source project, but the open source project itself is currently maintained by the folks at the Lindy Group. And the folks at the Lindy Group have said, unfortunately, the folks who have maintained this in the past have moved on. We don't really have someone who can take on this project with the appropriate expertise. So we are looking for a new home for AutoPkg. That was about 1.5 years ago, and unfortunately no one has stepped up to take on AutoPkg's care and feeding. So if anyone would like a wonderful project used by many Mac admins and would love to bask in the joy, love, and admiration of many, many Mac admins, please take on the maintenance of the AutoPkg project from the Lindy Group. I mean, it's a seriously great tool. But as I think the last time it really ran perfectly was on Sierra. It's gotten steadily a little more quirky on High Sierra and Mojave.
It still works pretty well in Mojave. With JSS Importer specifically, there's a new fork for JSS Importer that AutoPkg doesn't know about because it was after its time. So you have to manually install the new JSS Importer if you want to use it. But as far as I know, after you do that step, it should work fine in Mojave.
Okay.
Now, it's not notarized yet, so in 10.15, who knows? But and all of this is subject to change. There may be at any point somebody who jumps in and takes interest. So if you're
Yes.
that person, please get in touch.
Yes. Any other questions? I'm also open to answering AutoPkg questions. No questions? There was one thing I was going to mention it, and what was? Oh yes, now I remember. Speaking of AutoPkg, get some old business out of the way from that terrible time when this went out. But what? Yes, that was it. So, this is answering about getting started with AutoPkg. AutoPkg 1.1 includes a new recipe template creation option, which I wrote a blog post about because it's very useful. I'm going to post it to the Slack channel. So just one moment. Checking the screen behind me to make sure that Slack isn't up on that screen. Oh, did someone already shared it?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they did. Thank you, Elliot. That was very kind. But yeah, so what it does is that I'll just give a quick demo of that here. Whoa, that's a lot of terminal windows. Sorry, just one sec. There we go. Which screen, which way? Okay, there we go. Make that even bigger so that absolutely everybody can see it. It's orange. So let me just make sure I do have AutoPkg installed here. I'm pretty sure I do. Make sure it's also the right version. Yes, 1.1. But what you can do is tell AutoPkg, where did my mouse go? There it went. Is you can tell it, for example, you want to make a new recipe. You can just do AutoPkg new recipe and then just give it the location. And that will create a skeleton AutoPkg recipe. Hang on, let me do this in text edit so I can blow that up so people can see. There we go. But for those folks just getting started with AutoPkg, this will provide like a skeleton template for the recipe to get started with. And it, as you can see, it fills in very generic values, but at least it will get you started. There's also options for setting a custom identifier. Like right now, it just chose like local migrate application because that's what the name of the recipe is, migrate application. And you can also set up a parent recipe. And for those not familiar with AutoPkg, a parent recipe is a recipe that would come kind of before in terms of functionality from the recipe that you're currently working with. Like, for example, if you're building a package recipe, you would have, more than likely than not, you would have a parent recipe that is a download recipe. And so the parent recipe would run first, download the software, and then it would hand off to the package recipe to take that software you just downloaded and build an installer package from it. So this is a nice new feature, I think, in AutoPkg, especially for those folks just getting started, so you can take a look at what's going on and also help you shortcut getting recipes written, because it'll set everything up in the correct format that you need. Yeah, where'd the microphone go? Okay.
Pass it.
Oh,
Is there a way for to automate AutoPkg to always check for new recipes and new updates? Like AutoPkg are, you can schedule it, but like if you're not using that, is there something you could use instead?
yes, so AutoPkg is a great tool for that. I have also written a script kind of for handling that called AutoPkg Conductor. Let me put the link for that into Slack. So this is a shell script and launch daemon combination, and I wrote this because I was having issues running AutoPkg starting in High Sierra, which seemed to be specific to me. And I basically distilled down what I really wanted, which is that I really wanted to be able to run AutoPkg runs on a schedule. I wanted to be able to refer to a list of AutoPkg recipes which get run. And also because I love Slack, I wanted to be able to post the results of my AutoPkg runs to Slack. So, so basically I wrote a tool just for me that did all those things. I think my favorite is the posting to Slack part. Because what that will do get that over here is, like, for example, when you run, of course you need to set up in Slack the integration where this is supposed to go, but after that you can basically just have it. AutoPkg Conductor supports writing the results of Jamf Pro recipes to Slack. Unfortunately, since I only use Jamf Pro for this, I wrote this for me. So you'd probably be able to adapt this to other management systems. For those folks who don't have Jamf Pro, I did include functionality for basically dumping the entire AutoPkg run to Slack. It may wind up with more information than you want, but that's another option. Where'd I go? There we go. Not too big. But what it does in that case, it takes the entire AutoPkg log once your run is done and just dumps it to Slack so that you can see exactly what's going on. The fancy stuff comes if you're running Jamf Pro recipes, but can accommodate different groups, and also does logging so you can for errors, so you can take a look at what went wrong and stores that on your machine. So basically it's a solution I wrote for me. Other people have picked it up. It's been working successfully for them. If you need a solution, this may work for you. Ah, yes, you sir in the back.
I'm not doing it.
I noticed with Suspicious Package, you didn't use the Quick Look plugin. Is there any reason you don't leverage that? I find that immensely helpful.
I do often leverage the Quick Look package. However, I wanted to more explicitly show what Suspicious Package was seeing. So that's why I opened it up in Suspicious Package as a whole. But yeah, there is also the Quick Look for that. So Let me see.
Yeah, because usually you can use that, and then if you want to see more, there's like an open and suspicious package up in the right-hand corner, I think.
Yeah. Let's see if I can show what that looks like. Hold, please. Yeah, there we go. Nope, didn't like that. Why, oh, I remember why I didn't like it. One sec. There we go. My desktop should work again. Okay, so there is a quick look. Where it's through suspicious packages, and you can take a look at, whoop, why'd that do that? No, that's not what I wanted. There we go. You can take a look at what's going on and get some basic information about it. Like if you want to just quickly check out what the pre-install and post-install looks like, you can do that from the quick look. And if there's anything else that really you're like, I need more information about, there's also this button that says open a suspicious package. Burp. Hang on, let me get that window over there. Opens it up in suspicious package and says, hey, I've got stuff for you to review. On this package, I found one thing to review, and that is that the package isn't signed. So quick look will give you a cool basic information. For the most detailed information, you still will want to open it up in the app. All right, we're down to 4 minutes left. Who will get in the final question? Any more questions? Any more questions? Oh, hang on. Get the microphone over to that gentleman.
Who is it?
Right, there we go. Fumble!
Was the candy inspected by suspicious package?
I assume no liability from the consumption of the candy. And I would suggest that if you have problems, I would check for the Two Canoes label and take that up with the folks at Two Canoes.